Hey everybody, this is a very late live stream. In fact, I'm going to put out the tweet announcing it right now. Bear with me, please. And late because, well, for one thing, we had a game that ended late, and we had late night sharing of ideas, all that stuff, and then me talking with, because I'm here in Georgia, helping my mom here, talking with her. And God, I haven't seen Oakland. I'll see Oakland soon, but God, I don't know. It's just been that kind of year, folks. When you're a caregiver to your parent, that takes precedent over everything else. That's just the way that is. So anyway, but I digress. Man, okay, so here is my issue regarding the game tonight, which was a very good game. You know, it started off as bad football. I just have to say the quality of the football that was played was just awful. It was bad. And then it got better as time went on. And hey, you got a notification, Barry Lee. How you doing? And toward the end, it became really good football. Rob Iman says, is it time for the Falcons to draft a quarterback? I think it's past time. But I don't think, Rob, I'm gonna do the 150 million man a solid and say that I don't believe the game was so much a matter of needing a new quarterback. That was part of it. But I think that you have to work with the current quarterback. It's clear that Matt Ryan's throwing fundamentals under pressure are off. He played a bad game. He only threw 48% of his passes. He was 21 of 42 for 251 yards, I believe. 8 of those were caught by Julio Jones for, I think, 8 for 142, but maybe a little more than that. But I really have to put this one on Steve Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator. In fact, when I made my prediction, I mentioned in that prediction vlog that the reason I felt the Eagles would prevail was because I didn't believe Steve Sarkisian could produce a game plan that would take advantage of the talents of the Atlanta Falcons. And he didn't. It was boring. It was milquetoast. There was no imagination. It was predictable. The receiver patterns were predictable. The formations were common. I mean, there may have been something new. Well, yeah, there was something new in terms of frequency. There was something new in terms of the first scripted plays, which worked. But by the time they got down to the 4th and 1, they didn't convert the first time, the Falcons. And then the second time they went down, they got 3 points out of the deal. Okay. So this was a game you have to put on offense because the Falcons allowed the least number of yards they have for opener. I think it's been decades. No, actually not decades, since 2006. And yet they came out with that kind of result. And even though I'm not surprised, I'm disappointed for the fans of the organization. Hey, Barry Lee says, rest in peace, Burt Reynolds. Rest in peace. So what did you guys think? Did you see the game? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being awful, 10 being awesome, where would you rate the game? Me, from that perspective, I would rate it as an 8. Well, excuse me, a 9, because it ended I'll give it a 10. You know why? I'll give it a 10. I'll tell you why. Because it ended fittingly on the last play of the game. That was it. 4th and 1. There was no question. It was 1 second and 4th down. That's it. 1 second on the clock and 4th down. Falcons score. They win. They don't score. That's it. Okay. Rob Iman gives it a 7. Johnny Condores gives it a 5. And, you know, I'll modify mine. I said a 10. That's a little too generous, generally, considering what I said about the game started, so I'll give it an 8. Barry Lee said, I didn't see the game because I've been asleep thanks to this flu vaccine I got today. Sorry about that, Barry Lee. Barry Lee, you missed the game that was rated by me an 8, by Rob Iman a 7, and by Johnny Cardona a 5. Okay, so there you go. And and Philly Born says, I think, and he retracted. I have no Philly Born. Philly Born ought to be happy because, hey, Philly Born gives it an 8. Philly Born, did you go to the game, by the way? I also could not see the Falcons getting over Philly's version of the 12th man, those fans and that energy. I just couldn't, as Miguel Nunquist says, fly, Eagles, fly. Rob Iman says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerning is Matt Ryan's regression? That's a good question, Rob Iman. Rob Iman asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad was Matt Ryan's performance? 10 being really awful, 1 being, oh, it was good. This is abbreviated, by the way, because I have to wake up again early. My schedule's been really off. But at any rate, on a scale, I would match Rob Iman. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 was an 8. Yeah, 1 means he did really well, which he did not. 8, 10 is like you were like El Stinkaroo, 1,000,000%. But 8's about right. The score of the game was the Philadelphia Eagles 18, the Atlanta Falcons 12. And let me go into the NFL website and see the stats for the game, NFL.com. Let's review this. Really, you know, when all is said and done, quite fitting way to begin this, what promises to be extremely interesting 99th season. Yeah, 99th season of the National Football League. I'm waiting for the NFL webpage to open right now. Also, I have decided that starting today, every response that I give on social media will be with the video. I am not going to write text. It's going to be hard to do, okay? But I have decided that writing text is just an awful proposition. There's something about writing text and trolling and all that, and the way it hits me, and I just decided, you know, this is not cool. So I'm going to make videos. I'm going to vlog it. Yeah, I'm going to vlog it out, but that's another story. All right, so I'm going to the box score regarding the game, and okay, Matt Ryan was 21 of 43, 251 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. Nick Foles was 19 of 34 for 117, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Nelson Aguilar had 1 for 1, the Philly special, right? And rushing Jahi was 15 for 62, 11 yards was his longest game. For the Falcons, Devonta Freeman had only 6 attempts of rushing, 36 yards. You know, the main difference in this contest, if I go all the way down here, is that total net yards, Philadelphia, the difference was penalties. I mean, the Falcons had penalties, and they only had 74 net yards rushing. The Eagles had 113 yards rushing. The Falcons were sacked 4 times versus twice for the Eagles. And the average yard per pass play was 4.8 versus 3.2 for the Eagles. The Falcons played a whale of a game defensively. But the simple fact of the matter is that their offensive production was not enough to win. They had 15 penalties for 135 yards. The Eagles were not far behind. They had 11 for 101 yards. I wonder if that's a record. There were 26 penalties in this game. 26 penalties in the game. And now I'm trying to find the time of possession stat. Time of possession was 32 minutes and 10 seconds for the Eagles versus 27 minutes and 50 seconds for the Falcons, and that is your major stat of the day. Time of possession. The Eagles were appreciably ahead, though not gargantuanly ahead, in terms of time of possession. The Eagles offense moved the ball when it mattered the most, and scored, whereas the Falcons offense did not. This was a story of two offenses that had a hard time getting on track. The Eagles got on track and stayed there in the second half, whereas the Falcons offense sputtered until the fourth quarter, when it looked like they really, when decided to go to the pass, improved. Still, it was very unimaginative. Steve Sarkisian, after this one, I think there ought to be a clock put on him and say, hey, you know what? How long are you going to deal with this? And Philly Bourne says the Eagles' pass rush made Ryan uncomfortable all night long. Yep, I agree. Barry Lee says, was there any penalties for the new rule where players can't lead with their helmets to tackle? No, I didn't see one. No. You know, there may have been one I missed, but that wasn't the problem I thought it was going to be. It was just simple, you know, defensive holding, pass interference. There are a variety of penalties. There really were. Hey, John Marks, how you doing? Jack Bauer, how are you doing? And he says, these two teams will meet again. Sark can't call plays, says Jack Bauer, and I have to agree with him. That's certainly how it looks. Bad. Just plain bad. I mean, just straight out, awful game. It was also, it was a contest that I felt just started off raggedy. I mean, the weather made it so that there had to be a slight delay. Then it finally cleared, and the Eagles looked like they forgot they were the world champions. It looked like Carson Wentz should have been in there instead of Nick Foles. Just all the way around, the whole game was, the game started off like it was quite literally off balance. And the Falcons looked like on their opening drive, they're going to run away with it. They're going to control the ball and score, and they didn't. Philly Bourne says, Rob Iman says, I think the helmet rule will eventually be streamlined. Philly Bourne says, I'm ecstatic. My Eagles got one, but I'm a Raiders fan also, and I'm still angry about Khalil Mack, but that's for another day. Jack Bauer says, can the Raiders stop the run good enough versus the Rams? I think I'm less concerned about the run defense of the Raiders than I am the pass rush of the Raiders. But to answer your question, I'm going to say that I think the Raiders will control the run better than we realize. Khalil Mack was never the answer for the run game for the Raiders. Okay? I mean, there are tapes when people ran past Khalil Mack on any number of occasions. But when it comes to throwing, different story. He's a disruptor, without question. Riley says, I wonder if we're going to see a lot of penalties for leading the helmet. And John Marks says, Raiders will lose to the Eagles. Philly? And Jack Barr says, Todd Gurley scares me. Me too. But the unknown is what Paul Gunther's version of the Raiders defense will do against the Rams. Okay? The Raiders have not played the style of defense that he brings to the silver and black before. It's always been a two gap. Has not been the single gap, aggressively rush, take over the line of scrimmage to get to the quarterback, clean up the run along the way approach that Gunther is espousing and bringing to the Raiders. That's exciting. And so how the Rams would get around that is if they have trap plays in their arsenal, we'll see if they use them. If they insist on sweeps, I think that sweeps can work very well. Quick pitches could work even better. Anything that's quick hitting against the Raiders. Now, will they do that? It's another story. But, that's just my assessment. Because the Raiders have a quick team. The defensive team can move, can fly to the ball. However, they are susceptible to the end around. So careful, all right? I don't know if they've worked on that well. And I would certainly attack them in that way. And so, barely, yes, Raiders play this Monday night. Jack Bauer says, I think Gunn can get the most out of the definite defensive unit. You mean Gunther, got it. John Mark says, during the heyday, the Raiders were kings of Monday Night Football with 16-1-1 record from 1970-84. Let's see, 84, 94, 94, 2004, 2004, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. So you're talking about 34 years ago. Gotcha. Rob Hyman says, I'm ready for the Niners-Vikings on Sunday. There you go. All right, folks, it is now 15 minutes. It is 2:12. I'm going to begin a closeout, but I will be back. I'm contemplating I will do another live stream either tonight or Saturday before Sunday. Okay, I want to get an extra one. So stay tuned. I apologize for the choppiness and late starts, but it just has been chaotic of late. I'll get back on track. I'm behind schedules and emails. I'll catch up with that. Lots going on personally here. Okay, so that's what's going on. Now, Barry Lee says, who's the best? What's the best Raider team of all time? Good question. Good question. So anyway, I'm going to close out. And if anybody has any ideas or questions, you can always email me right here. I'm going to write Zennie at Zennie62.com right there. Okay. It's John Marks. Hey, John Marks. John Marks says, watch horror films, keep America strong. Have you seen the trailer for the new Halloween? Pretty scary, man. I have to say. Have you seen it? Just curious. Scary stuff. All right. But it is 2:13 in the morning. And have a good night, Johnny Cardona. Have a good night, everybody. And again, live long and prosper. All right. See you. Got it. Oh, hey, John Marks, just go to YouTube. Check it out. Turn your speakers up. Just saying. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night. Jack Bauer says, oh, my God, it looks great. Too bad Dr. Loomis is dead. Yeah, it is. It is. Good night, everybody. I'll see you. Remember, I will give a heads up if it is tomorrow or not. Okay. And I'll do that via a blog, midday video blog, okay? Which will say Zennie62 tonight or not, later. All right. See you guys later. Thank you. Good night.